Thank you so much for joining me today. For some reason, our video was cut short at the end, but there will be more to come, so stay tuned. Enjoy the video. So I am excited to be at my doctor's office with Dr. Allison Walsh, and she is going to talk to us today about maintenance because I'm very close to it, and I know that a group of other people are close to it. We all went on Mounjaro in June or July, August, and now we're approaching our goal and we're coming off of it. And what are we going to do? Because people are scared.
So I think for everybody in general, regardless of whether you used Mounjaro as your medication or an oral medication, some degree of apprehension as you approach maintenance is natural. You've undergone a huge transformation that's exciting, that's something you've worked very hard for, and the thought of not being able to maintain that is scary. So hopefully I'm here to provide you some reassurance today that there are a lot of strategies and tools out there to help you be successful in maintenance. Everybody's story is different. There is no one-size-fits-all approach. So I'm going to talk about a variety of different ways that maintenance can be achieved because depending on how you entered this process, what weight you started from, how much of a loss you had in mind as your goal, if you have underlying medical conditions like insulin resistance, diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, there are other factors that may need to be considered when determining whether ongoing medication use makes sense for you.
Sure.
So I think the first step for most people really is to have a good conversation with your prescribing physician about your plan. Hopefully you've been talking with this physician the whole time and working on behavioral modifications. But even if you haven't, even if your prescription was written by a primary care physician and you haven't really been working with them during the weight loss process, now's a good time to make an appointment and make a plan for coming off of Mounjaro if the cost is going to be prohibitive for you when the coupon expires. You know, the first step really is to find out what your coverage is. Mounjaro is now on formulary for diabetic patients for many insurances. So it's possible that you may have coverage for ongoing use if that's something you would entertain doing. And if you have true type 2 diabetes, stopping all medication may not be realistic. Now, for patients who don't have underlying diseases that require ongoing medication treatment, for many people the goal was to get off of medications, reduce medication use, to primarily heal yourself and be well through your dietary choices.
Right.
So I think it's reasonable to hopefully, you have 2 months left, try to wean your Mounjaro down in preparation for the end of the coupon if you're not going to be continuing on GLP-1s, while continuing your dietary modification. So hopefully you've been following some sort of plan that has led you to eating lots of lean protein, lots of vegetables, led you to educate yourself about the nutritional content of what you're consuming, moving away from processed and ultra-processed foods, moving to fresh foods. These are all general themes. There are many ways to lose weight. You know, the way that Lori and I have worked on has been a high protein, low carbohydrate approach, not no carbs, because our focus at Women's Lifestyle Solutions has always been sustainability.
Sure.
I want all of my ladies to maintain their result long term.
Sure.
But we've talked about for Lori, you know, she's going to come off of meds and she's going to continue modifying her diet, and we're going to see how she does in maintenance. You know, I advise everybody to try to maintain a relatively tight range, 2 to 3 pounds as around their goal. And if they start to see those numbers move, maybe 5 or more pounds outside of range, that's a good time to check back in with your provider and have a discussion, because there are other alternatives besides GLP-1s that can be used intermittently or on a more long-term basis to assist with some of the things Mounjaro does. So for many people, Mounjaro was exciting because it cured their head hunger. So I've heard from so many women that voice in their head, that ravenous voice that was never full, never silenced, finally was quiet. And that allowed them to make better food choices. They're worried that voice is going to come back. Traditional medications like bupropion, naltrexone, and Topamax aim to address this concept at a much more accessible price point for many folks. They
good.
don't work quite as well, but they do work. And they are the types of medications that you can stay on long term. So if people start to creep in maintenance, we talk about reinstituting some short-term medication use or adding medications that they can stay on long term to kind of try and damp down those cravings, because that's usually what comes back.
Yeah.
Is the cravings. The sugar cravings in particular are hard for a lot of people.
Absolutely. And I know that in my experience, I worked on getting rid of sugar for the most part, other than natural recurring sugars in fruits and things like that. That's helped me a lot. Do I eat sugar? Very occasionally. I might eat sugar, like on a special event or whatever, but on a day-to-day basis, I try to stay away from it. And I don't have those cravings,
Absolutely.
Or just replace it with something that's more healthy, that still gives you that little bit of sweetness,
Sure.
but you're not eating white sugar.
I think when you let go of refined sugar and processed foods that contain added sugars, you're actually able to taste fruit again.
Exactly.
I noticed that in my own day-to-day life when I've been hitting up the Easter or the Christmas candy a little too much. I stopped tasting my fruit. But normally I can have a bowl of mixed berries and like a couple pieces of orange or something, and that tastes very sweet. That tastes like dessert. And honestly, refined sugar is almost too sweet when you're not consuming a lot of refined sugar.
That's what I was going to say. Whenever I do have refined sugar, to me, it's like, oh my gosh, it is so sweet. I just don't want
almost sickening sweet.
Exactly. And then I think the other thing that you taught me in starting this, I was doing keto. So I was pretty low carb for my first 75 pounds of weight loss. And I had maintained that low carb status until August. And when I came to my first or second visit and you told me, I want you eating 30 carbs a meal, I was like, what? I don't even eat 30 carbs a day, but it's worked. It's been fine. Do I get 30 carbs a meal? No. Probably not. But I get more than what I used to.
And and to your point, Lori, the reason that I like a low carb but not a no carb approach, I usually tell people, about 20 carbs a meal, 60 to 80 grams of carbohydrates per day. And the reason for that is the sustainability component. Most people long term, Lori's an outlier in that she sustained it for 3 full years, but most people don't do well eating less than 30 grams of carbs a day long term. Eventually, they break from that, and when they do, they fall out of ketosis. So I prefer people to lose weight using glucose as primary fuel, burning and creating energy in the normal fashion, because that's more likely where people will end up from a sustainability standpoint long term.
Right.
Lori is so exciting because she also is a great example for everybody of tiered weight loss. So I emphasize this a lot with patients, that if you have a lot to lose, if you have more than 100 pounds to lose, losing all of that weight in one episode of calorie restriction, carbohydrate restriction may not be possible. Metabolically speaking, when you restrict calories, your metabolism slows in response. And so you're gonna plateau eventually. For many people, that plateau happens relatively early if they have a lot of resistance to weight loss. Even 15-20% body weight loss is a good weight loss.
Sure.
So for some folks who have a lot to lose, you may lose 50, 60, 70 pounds and then hold. Try to keep it off for 18 months, 2 years, and then restrict calories again and lose again. Allow your metabolism to rebound so that you can have successful weight loss again.